I'll just do this. What will kill you first? Hopefully this is going to be too dark, but just trust me. I've come to dread it when people ask me what I do for a job because, and maybe they sense my awkwardness, but when I tell people I design electronics for particle accelerators, it's a bit of a conversation killer. And maybe I'm not saying it right, maybe it's a bit unrelatable, but if people seem slightly impressed at first, they also sort of slowly seem to start to back away as well. And I've come to realise that no one wants to talk about this for very long. So when Jackson told me that I had a captive audience for 8 minutes, I thought it's the perfect opportunity to finish all those conversations that have, ended, sadly cut short when people need to go to the bathroom or, is that the time? So hopefully I can prove to you that particle accelerators are relatable and there's something in it for all of us. So I want to start with a very relatable question. If you fell in a particle accelerator, what would kill you first? And I want you to get involved in this. I'm going to give you 4 options. And I guess, but before you give me your answers, I want to have a little bit of a look at each of the factors involved in this environment inside a particle accelerator. Number 1, temperature. Does anyone want to take a guess at what sort of temperatures we're looking at? Are we hot? Are we cold? Cold. We're cold. We're real cold. The magnets are cryogenically cooled to minus 271 degrees, which is about as cold as you can get, about 2 degrees off as cold as you can get. So just keep that in your mind before it comes time to vote. The heat of the beam. So just to give you an idea, the Large Hadron Collider beam has so much energy that if you put a massive block of copper in front of it, the beam could melt 600 tons of copper from solid to liquid with one beam. All right, so that's a little bit of heat. Number 3, the radiation dose. I'd be happy to tell you that there's a wide selection of radiation types available, so just keep that in mind. And number 4 is the vacuum. You know what vacuum is? It's space. There's no air, there's no atmosphere, there's no pressure. So, it's time to place your votes. Once the votes are read, the decision is final, and a person voted out will be asked to leave the area immediately. What's going to kill you first? Who wants to vote temperature, the cold? No one. Okay. Cold's not going to kill you. Okay. Who wants to vote for the heat from the beam? Yeah, we've got a few takers. Radiation dose? Few. And the vacuum? Oh, that's getting good votes. All right. So I'm just going to give you the answer quickly on each of those. The temperature, yes, it's cold, but in a vacuum, the heat doesn't leave you very quickly. So you can rug up and temperature won't be the first thing to kill you. Heat from the beam is an interesting one because it's incredibly hard to stop the beam. The beam has enough energy to go through your head and out the other side 100,000 times before it slows down. So yes, if your head was dense enough to stop the beam, and some are denser than others, and you lost all that heat, yeah, it would cook you. But the thing is that in the fraction of a second it takes the beam to pass through your head, it hasn't left much heat behind at all. Radiation dose. The best way to answer that one is it happened in real life. A guy called Anatoly Bogorsky in a Russian facility back in 1978, before OH&S was a thing. Although I've seen a modern Russian facility and I'm not completely sure that OH&S is a thing in 2018. But anyway, it's a lot lower energy than the Hadron Collider, but apparently he saw a flash brighter than 1,000 suns. He felt no pain. His face swelled up, the skin peeled off. He was paralysed on that side, but he carried on and finished his PhD. He's still alive, now 76 years old, so it's not the radiation dose. Vacuum. To best answer this, I wanted to show you some actual footage of what happens to a human exposed to vacuum. Okay, So human exposed to vacuum. So, what will kill you first? Actually, vacuum is the correct answer. I won't go into all the horrible things that will do to you, but if you don't have the force, vacuum will kill you in about 10 seconds. All right? So what is the point of all that? How is that relatable? The inside of a particle accelerator is a place that is very hostile to human life. It's easy to see how those factors are hazardous to your health. We live in a world that is now, more than ever, fundamentally hostile to your spiritual health, 24/7. And there's a lot more than 4 hostile factors to worry about. And you could easily ask the same question: what's going to kill you first, spiritually? And you might have friends who you've seen lose this fight. And as much as it might look like there's one particular factor, one event, one incident, one temptation that's got the better of them, I believe that's not what actually happens. I remember someone saying to me once that they were worried about a sister and they thought that alcohol was going to catch her out. And I disagree, because not alcohol, not parties, not girls, or guys if you're a girl, or any other temptation has any power over us. They're all just symptoms. And I think they're symptoms of wanting somewhere to belong, which is something that we all have. And God has actually offered us the best of the best as far as places to belong. But sometimes people haven't worked that out yet. And if you haven't worked out, I guess when people haven't worked out the priceless value of belonging with God and for Him to belong to you. And if you don't see that as an unspeakable treasure, you end up looking past it, and wanting to belong to this world and to do the things where doing the stuff of the world loves is just a symptom. The scripture about leaving your first love. It means that either consciously or subconsciously, something has become so big in your life that you had to put your love of God down to pick this other thing up. And as you walk on, leaving your love for God back behind you. And maybe not even realising that you put it down. You've been distracted from the most valuable thing that a human being could ever hold. And the world is marketing its ideas for things that you can trade your soul for 24/7. They are constantly offering things that are naturally appealing, and some of them are even positive things in a natural sense. But by giving anything precedence over your love for God and leaving that love for God somewhere on the road behind you, your first love, each day as you walk, this new thing that's got your attention, you put more distance between yourself and your love for God. And it's that, spiritually, it's that distance that will kill you. It's not this thing that you've picked up. It actually doesn't matter what you've picked up. It's the distance to the love of God. So it's not what you picked up that hurts you. It's what you put down back there. And maybe you didn't even choose this thing, and maybe it's just appeared or grown unchecked in your life. It could be emotional. It could be a bitterness or a sadness about something that you haven't or couldn't deal with, find a way to deal with. It could be fear. It could be pride. It could be jealousy. It could be you've been offended and you can't see past that anymore. Or it could be sickness. It could be sudden sickness or a long-term sickness in yourself or in someone you love. And any one thing might look worse than something else and might have its own unique challenges, but it doesn't change the fact that none of those things can kill you. There is one solution, one answer, one protection against all of them. And that's the knowledge that if you go back to that love for God, if you protect that and nurture it and value it, you're invincible. And the specific details of any threat are irrelevant in the face of this solution. In Romans 8, Paul writes, "I am convinced that nothing can ever separate us from God's love. Neither death nor life, nor angels nor demons, nor our fears for today, nor our worries about tomorrow, not even the powers of hell can separate us from God's love. No power in the sky above or in the earth below, indeed, nothing in all creation will ever be able to separate us from the love of God. And he had the street cred to say that. I'll never forget the day a brother who was faced with an unimaginable tragedy in his life told me his secret weapon, and it was this passage. If the thing that he had gone through couldn't separate him from the love of God, then he was now more confident than ever that he was spiritually indestructible. There's 1,000,001 threats out there. You know which ones are your weaknesses. So what's going to kill you first? Nothing even can. As very human as you might feel sometimes, your soul, your connection to the love of God is untouchable, it's impervious, it's as unbreakable as his promise to you. Hold on to the love of God, don't let it go, don't put it down, don't trade it for anything.